All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back. And today we're going to talk about why you're still stuck even after years and years of hard work. So let's break this down, right? We're here to learn about health and about ways that we can transform and become our most vibrant, high energy, most fit person, right? How we can become our best self and live the most optimal, healthy lifestyle that we can with the years that we have. But we're struggling, right? We've been doing diets, we've been doing workouts, we've been doing all of these things, and we feel like we haven't gotten the fruit of our labor. We feel like we're busting our butt, we're working really hard, we're trying all the things, but yet it's not seeming to click, right? We're not getting to the point that we want to be at with our health and with our life. So let me tell you a little story about when I was younger. So growing up, I played sports, right? Primarily lacrosse. I played a lot of sports, soccer, basketball, football. I've tried it all, right? I've done baseball, but my main thing was lacrosse. Now, we as a team were not very good. We tried hard. We showed up to practice every day. We went to our games, and to me, my goal was to become a college lacrosse player. Like, I loved everything about the sport. It's all that I thought about day in and day out, right? I practiced it even after school, even after practice. It was my goal to be as good as I could be and then play college lacrosse. The problem was, as a team, we weren't winning games. So although I was working my butt off and getting better myself, that didn't really help because it's a team sport and we needed to be good enough as a team to win games. Because guess what? It's cool to be good, but it's even cooler to win, right? It's the best thing in the world to achieve your goals, to win games, to win tournaments, to win championships as an athlete, as someone who plays sports. But although we spent hours after school practicing, we tried our best there. We did all of those things that we know we should. We hit the gym, we went for runs, we did our drills. We could not win a game. And I'm going to tell you why. And it's because the school that I went to had this stigma about that type of sport from that school that we were just no good. It was a newer program. We didn't have many experienced people. Growing up, kids really didn't play lacrosse. So when we were in high school, it was just this underlying truth or belief, I should say, that we were not good. We could practice all that we want, but we weren't going to beat certain teams just because, that's what they did. Those towns and those schools, they played lacrosse from the time they were a little kid. They were all so good. They had better programs. And while some of those things might have been true, I know for sure we could have beaten those teams with the right belief and the right mindset that we were winners and we were capable of doing those things if we put in the work. But no matter how many times we practiced, no matter how many drills we did, we couldn't seem to win the games because we just had this underlying false belief that we were meant to lose. That's what we did at our high school for lacrosse is we didn't win. We were just kind of out there like doing our best, but we weren't winners at that sport. Now, let me tell you, that belief is totally false and it didn't serve us. Now, had we had the mindset of, you know what, guys, we're a newer program. We need to really work our butts off. We need to study the game. We need to learn how we can improve and track ourselves from this. But guess what? We're winners because we're showing up here and we're doing the things. Guess what that would have done? That would have allowed us to win way more games and have much more fun doing it. Rather than having this anticipation of, yeah, we're trying hard, but we're probably going to lose anyway, so we'll just show up and see what happens. That is not a winner's mindset. That's not going to lead you to win more games. Now, the reason why I'm giving you this example of lacrosse and my high school experience is that it directly correlates to all the effort and all the hard work that you're doing within your health journey. You see, you're going to the gym. You're researching things online. You're listening to podcasts like this. Maybe you've tried a ton of diets. Maybe you've tried coaching. But guess what? All of the exercise in the world, all the diets in the world will not last long term if you don't have this deep belief that you are worth it and you can win and you can achieve your goals. Because just like in our lacrosse season, we worked hard, we practiced, we ran just as much as the other teams, but they had this belief that they were a cohesive team, that they were good, that they were built to win. We did not. Therefore, it didn't matter how many times we ran around the track. It didn't matter how many wall balls that we did. We showed up into that game and we were flat. Our confidence was down. We didn't think that we deserved to win, therefore we did not win. So I'm telling you this right now, that if you are spinning your wheels, if you're trying diets, if you are working out so hard in the gym, but you don't have a belief that you're worthy of achieving that energy, that level of strength, that body that you want to look at and see in the mirror, it's not going to come true. And maybe it could over time, but the odds are against you in the fact that you're going to get burnt out and you're going to want to quit or you're going to want to change something. And we all know that consistency trumps all. So what it takes to build power, strength, and progress in the gym is consistency over time, doing those boring things and building the belief that you are who you say you are the person who has those goals. Then you will start to see all of the fruit of your labor start to transpire. You're going to start to see weight coming off. You're going to start to see energy improve. You're going to start to see what you're doing working. So I hope that makes sense, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I see too many people struggling, right? They are working their tail off, right? They're doing two-a-days. They're walking all the time. They're doing all of the things that you see online, the health habits, the strategies, the diets. They're doing it all. And they're still frustrated because they haven't gotten to where they want to get to. And I'm telling you right now, yes, there comes a time where you need to do testing and see what's going on internally. And that's why I do that. Because it's not just a cookie cutter, let's guess on what's going on. You need to get down to the nitty gritty of your health and what can improve it. But the forefront of that, the beginning of all of that, is the belief that you can and the belief that you are worth it. Right? It comes from that deep self-love of, I know that this work is working for me, not working on me, right? So the problem that I see is that so many people are just focusing on the do. What's the diet? What's the workout? What are the supplements that I need to take to achieve my goal? But if your subconscious belief is that I'll fail anyway, or I've done this before and it didn't really work, or I'm not worth it, you're going to sabotage yourself every time. Just like I said with the lacrosse scenario. We worked hard, but we went into that game not believing that we were worth it, therefore we lost. So same thing might be happening for you. So this is why people cycle through different diets, they cycle through different workout programs, and they never sustain results. Because they'll do it for a little bit, but when the belief isn't there and you need to try to just muster up some motivation or energy just to get through the day every single day, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to burn out. And that's not a good place to be from. You want to be energized just because you believe it. You want to have the wherewithal to take those action steps without having to, worry about all the negative things in the world. You know that it gets boring. You know that it gets hard, but you're going to do it anyway because you're worth it. And what else is there to do, right? Quit, give up. You know that you're worth it, so you're going to do it anyway. So this is where I want to introduce you to the phrase that I didn't create. I don't know who created it, but I've heard it from a mentor of be, do, and have. And that if you want to achieve anything in life, it has to come in that order or else it will not work, right? The be has to come first. Who you must become in order to achieve those things. Who is the person who believes that they are worth it? Then there's the do, the actions that flow naturally from this identity. What are your habits? What are your routines? How are you showing up in the world? What is your energy like? That's the doing, right? And then the have is the results that are a natural byproduct of the belief plus the actions. You see, it starts with being. You believe you're that person. You are showing up as that person. And then from that, naturally, those action steps align with who that person is,
right?
Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show.
If I am a vibrant, healthy person, how do I show up in the world? What would that person do on a day-to-day basis, even throughout the day? Like, how does that person wake up in the morning? How does that person show up in meetings? How does that person show up for the relationships that they have in their life? And then executing on that in a non-hesitant way. It's a natural flow because that's just who you are. And then by result of doing those, you then have the things, the byproducts, the results that that person would naturally have, right? So if you're someone who values health, maybe you naturally choose protein in your meals. Maybe you prioritize your sleep over watching shows. Maybe you're someone who walks every day just because that's what you like to do. You park further away at the store to get extra steps in. That is someone who values health, right? That isn't just someone doing the things to do them. That is someone who down deep, their belief level is so strong that they are someone who's healthy and that it matters so much to them. Their actions coincide with their beliefs. And by default, guess what? Maybe they're more slender, right? They have a better body fat percentage. Their body operates for them in less pain, right? That's what happens as a byproduct of believing and being that person and then having those habits coincide with that belief rather than just focusing on what's the result? What's the result? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? That leaves us going crazy, right? Because we're always focused on this do of what are the action steps. And yes, we have to take action. That trumps all. But if you are taking action that doesn't have any belief behind it, nothing is going to come out of that, right? So, how do we build this belief? If it all stems from the person we are, the person who we believe we can be, and internally we have that deeply rooted, how do we do that? Right? Well, I believe it comes from clarity and it comes from building small wins towards your identity. So, clarity is who do you see yourself as? Who do you want to become? And I would challenge you to sit there and journal or type it out, however you want to get these thoughts out, and get into very vivid detail of the person who is you times 10. Like, how do they wake up in the morning? What does their routine look like? How do they show up in the world? How do they dress? How do they walk? What activities do they do? How do they talk, right? Like, you have to get in very vivid detail of the person who you see yourself as. If not, we're shooting at a blind target, right? We have our eyes closed. We don't know who we want to be or who we want to show up in the world as. So you have to get very clear on that, right? And then you have to get small wins that are going to build your identity. And identity and small wins come from holding the commitment to yourself in a non-negotiable way. What I mean is like picking 1 to 2 things that you do on a daily basis, no matter what. And this is going to be hard at first because there's going to be some resistance. It's something that you're not used to doing. So it'll take some effort, it'll take some planning, it'll take some grit and some mental discipline to do it at first. But that's why you start with 1 to 2 things that you're capable of doing, but challenge you a bit. So that means maybe, you start using your Apple Watch to track how many steps you get, and you realize you're only getting 2,000 steps a day. How are we going to go from 2,000 to 3,000? Well, we're going to schedule in a 10-minute walk twice a day, or we're going to get up 30 minutes earlier so we can hop on the treadmill and just walk it out, right, to get extra steps. There's going to have to be some type of challenge to what you're doing, but it's got to be within your wheelhouse. It's got to be something that you confidently think that you can do. So picking those 1 to 2 things that you can do on a daily basis and have it be a non-negotiable. And I'm talking about you got in bed, you got all cozy, but you realized that you committed to yourself to prepping your food for the next day for lunch so that you didn't have to think about it in the morning. That means you get out of bed, you go down to the kitchen, you prepare your food, you get your lunch ready, you put it in the fridge, and then you go to bed, right? That's the level of determination and discipline that you must have to build the identity of the person you're trying to become. Now, you might say that seems hard, and yes, things are not going to be easy at all times, They become easier as you go. But the point is what you're doing right now is leading you to the results and to the belief of who you are at the moment. So in order to change that, it's going to take change, right? So that's what I mean. When you pick your 1 to 2 things, they are non-negotiables. If you said you were going to go for a 30-minute walk, and again, you got in bed and you got your pajamas on, but you promised yourself to go for a walk, and no one else knows. You didn't post on social media, you didn't tell anyone, but in between your ears, you knew that you were going to go for a 30-minute walk and you didn't. Go get your shoes on, get your jacket on, go for a walk, and then you're going to sleep like a baby that night because you're going to feel like you're the master of your life and you're in control. Another thing you can do is to visualize and affirm the versions of yourself you're becoming. And that's why it's so important to get clarity on that person. So when you write out in vivid detail what you wear, how you show up in the world, your energy, what you do for a living, what your habits are, you can then close your eyes and become that person. You step into that world and you can walk around a day in your life, in your mind, as that person. So you're training your brain and your subconscious that that's how we are. That's how we show up. This is how we dress. These are the people we talk to. This is the energy that we have. This is the person that I am. Boom. Now you're training your subconscious, and slowly but surely, you're going to start to see opportunities. You're going to start to see, things that prove yourself right over time. Another thing is surrounding yourself with support and accountability. We are human beings. We need to be ingrained in cultures, in societies, in teams, in communities that support what we want. So if you're currently working with, surrounding yourself with, and hanging out with folks who don't align with the person who you're trying to become, guess what? You're going to have to start seeking out different people. You're going to have to start removing yourself or limiting yourself and exposure to those people. Because if you go back to human evolution, right? We were in tribes. You needed to talk the same way. You needed to show up as an asset, or else you would be exiled from the group. We don't want that. So therefore, that makes our body and our mind adapt to the people we're around. This is not just like woo-woo bumper sticker stuff, like you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. It's how our body was made to adapt to these tribes. So that if you are surrounding yourself with a bunch of people who, when they go out to dinner, they just get water instead of 3 alcoholic beverages, and they go for walks daily, and they exercise, and they eat clean foods, and they cook at home a lot, and they have these values. If you're around those people, by default, you're going to have to adapt to fit in with the group, or you're going to be exiled. So that's why it's so important to surround yourself with that type of support and that type of accountability. Another thing that you can do is reframe your setbacks as proof that you're still in the game, right? You're working hard. Something happens, right? You're crushing these habits. You're crushing these non-negotiables that you're doing. And then you got really busy at work. You forgot about it. You had to rush home and cook dinner. And that's a setback because you had your 1 to 2 non-negotiables that you said you were going to do. Well, then guess what? That's just proof that you're actively doing it. You're working at those things. But as long as you then acknowledge it, whoa, this is a setback. This isn't according to plan. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adapt, and I'm still going to get my non-negotiables done. And you move forward. That's going to skyrocket your confidence towards the person you're becoming. And over time, when you keep doing that, it's no longer a guessing game of, am I really worth being fit, and do I really love myself? You're not even going to have to think about that because you're just going to embody it. And that's really when you start to see things happening. Now, just to wrap it up, the moral of the story is if you don't become it first, you can't just have it later. It's not just about doing, it's about becoming the person who you see yourself as, getting very clear on that, writing it out, understanding, visualizing who that person is, and then creating those non-negotiables to build momentum and build confidence over time. So I know I've said this before, and maybe, we've had a podcast just like this, but it's so important that it's worth me repeating once a week, every day, if I need to, right? That once you become the person who it is you want to become, you will attract the things in your life. So you have to be, then you get to do those aligned actions, and then by default, you will have. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, share it with a friend. Leave comments. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next week.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.